Hey, how you doing? So today we're taking off the suspension on a VFR800, and I've loosened off the top bolt, which is this bolt, when it was actually in position. The reason you do that is because it's obviously just a pole and there's nothing to grip onto, and when you're trying to loosen it off, you've got that much torque, but there's no torque on here. So that's nicely loosened off, and what I'm going to do is just take it off the rest of the way. I've got my little bucket to get all the oil. I've already actually opened this one up, and I just want to check to make sure that it's all good inside. So what I'm doing is I'm applying pressure with this hand down, and then I'm twisting it off like so. And then, yeah. Groovy. So I'm not going to take this one fully apart, but there's lots of people that sort of measure the amount of oil that you put into these in a really complicated way. And what I want to do is just show you a really simple way of measuring the oil. So you've got 100 milliliter air gap, and all you need for this is a ruler, a simple ruler. And what you're doing is you're measuring from this point here down 10 centimeters. And you can do this. What I'm doing is I'm just dropping this down until we get to about 10 centimeters. And I know I've already filled this up to the correct limit. Okay, maybe we could top up with a little bit more oil. But yeah, the level is just there, which it gives us a figure of about 10.5. I'm not gonna go, oh my god, it's coming out. All right, okay. So that's how I measure the air gap at the top. I don't know, there might be some sort of other people out there that might sort of measure it differently, but that gives you the same result of 100 milliliter air gap. And now all we're going to do is put this one back on to the bike in the same way as we took it off. I'm just going to hand tighten this in place and then lock a loader back inside. So it's pretty gnarled up, the paintwork on here. This is from the brake. Every time you hit the brakes, all the little burnt particles hit the side on here. So really, this could do with like a nice fresh coat of paint. As you can see, I'm chrome wrapping the whole bike, so it's going to look amazing. And I will touch these up and give these a repaint, just so that they look all lovely and beautiful. Now, I'm just going to put it back in place. Making sure we're not crossing over any cables. Make sure we get all our cables in the right place, because one thing you want to do is check the steering after you put these back in. Make sure your cables are in the correct position, because if your steering jams up as you're going around a corner, it's not going to be a happy ending. So what I'm doing now is putting it back in, and getting to the top, there's just a little mark, and I mean, on this one, it's got rust marks where it was originally installed, so I kind of know where it goes because you can just see the rust marks and you can lock it back into position. So that kind of makes it a little bit simpler. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've done one, I'm just going to drop out the other one. We're going to strip it all down. We're going to have a look at all the parts and the internal workings. And I'm not going to be replacing all of the parts for it. I'm literally just going to be replacing the parts that need replacing. As the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Save your money. Spend your money on something else like beer or whatever else you want to spend it on. All right. Okay, so there's a 14 mil. What's this one? That's 14 mil. So there's a 14 mil one at the bottom to lock it. Double check it's in correct position. And it is. I think the top two are both 12. Just remember that these are made of aluminium, so when you're tightening down on anything on a bike, just bear in mind it is aluminium, and as a bike gets older it turns to butter. So I always go on feel. The setting for these, I think, is about 20 to 30. However, I've put on about 50 on that one. That's just, doing this a long time. A lot of you are like, that's just guesswork. And yes, it is, it's just guesswork. But is it going to come off? No, it's not going to come off. Now, I did have these held up by zip ties. It's really important not to have them hang in for too long. But the armored, this cabling is armored. The actual brake fluid is held in cables that is armor plated. So if this cable is damaged by just hanging less than a couple of kgs on it, then it's a dodgy cable and you should probably get it replaced. Piping, sorry, not cable. Okay, so next ones are 12s. What we have, we've got 12. And there's just two at the top, pretty easy. groovy. Okay, so the other thing that I'm also replacing is the actual bearing headset. So if you turn your wheel and you can feel it sort of lumpy and like there's notches in it, like this one, it just wants to go in a perfect straight position because for most of its life it's just been in this position. So the bearings in the headset, they've actually worn in such a way that there's a dip in the middle of them now. So it just literally finds that groove and stays there. Is this a good thing? Not really. It's an MOT failure. That's what this one failed on its MOT, along with the front forks. So in actual fact, I've got to take both the forks out and also replace the headset. But for now, I'm just going to leave my little forks here. And I'm going to drop out this one. This is my next one I'm going to drop out, and then we're going to strip it down completely. So we're just going to focus on the forks, but putting them in, taking them out is literally 3 bolts. That's not including taking off the wheel, taking off the front fender, if you're American. We call it a mud guard in the UK, and taking out the brakes. So the first thing you do is you take out the brakes, then you take off the wheel, then you take off the fender. It's in that order. If you do it in any other order, say you left the brakes on and you took the wheel out, the wheel wouldn't drop out because the brakes are in the way. So a little top tip for you there. So just going to take off this one. Most things are always done by feel. Always sort of feeling to see, you know, where it is, how it is. It's like, you know, when you're inside the engine bay of a car, most of it is always done on feel. You're never going to be doing stuff just by being able to look at it and see it, because you probably haven't got the lighting or, you know, whatever you actually need or want. What we're doing is taking all the steam off this, and I'm pretty sure, I actually thought, use the little one for the top one, which is our number 12 mil, and our 14 mil at the bottom. And then this post will literally just drop out. Cool. So if you're wondering what these bits are, they are a handlebar raiser. So they just raise the handlebar by about that much. But what they also do at the same time is they lower the front of the bike by that much. Which means if you're a shorter rider, it's slightly better because you don't have so far to actually reach the handlebars. But what I found with these is that because the movement of the handlebars is not designed to be like, what's that, about an inch, 1 inch higher, it was touching things it shouldn't be touching. So when you came all the way back, the handlebars were in an awkward position right against the fuel tank. So I'm actually removing these because I'm a slightly bigger guy, which will mean that the handlebars will be slightly lower down, which will mean that the front wheel will be raised slightly. So it changes the riding style slightly. However, it's for my preference. So yeah, because I'm going to be riding this bike. So that's why I'm doing it. Cool. Screwdriver.
Single head or the flat one?
I'm going to need it in a bit.
Okay.
Oi! Whoops. Almost hit my son. Okay, cool. In case you're wondering how this bike is magically staying up with no front wheel, I will reveal that later. It is the art of counterbalancing. These bikes have a central stand that you can drop down. And I'm sure you can get weird and wonderful, very expensive stands that hold your bike in a beautiful position. However, we're doing things on a low budget. Mainly because why spend hundreds of pounds on something that you are only going to use once, when you can actually do things very safely using mathematics. Cool. So, I don't know if you saw that, but I actually forgot to loosen this part before taking it out. So I'm going to have to put this back in, and then I'm going to have to loosen this top nut off, because I was just about to loosen this and I thought to myself, damn. So here goes. See, even the best of us make mistakes. Okay, so then we get our 24 millimeter spanner. Boom. Okay. Boom. Okay, so this is where you have your rag, and it's a proper messy job. And you got your bucket. This, by the way, was recycled, because I am all about the environment and yeah, sort of like saving things and not overusing things, not buying things you don't need, you know, like a lot of people, they buy stuff they just don't need. There's no point, you know. There's no point. So, what I'm trying to do. Oh, okay, cool. So, in no particular order, this is how this beautiful thing is going to work. We're just going to tip this straight into the bucket and empty it out. Oh damn, okay, before I do that I'm going to put this back on because I need to do the bottom bolt. So what's the way? Whenever you do things like on film, you know, you always get it the wrong way around. What I'm doing is getting some torque on that. Now what we want to do is we want to get the pressure actually on middle dampener. The reason we want to do that is because there is, where is it? Okay, so what we need to do, is this the right size? We need a smaller size. No, this is the right size. So what we're going to do is we are going to take out the bolt that, well, we're just going to loosen it off. We're not going to actually take it out, but as soon as we do loosen it off, bear in mind it's going to start leaking oil because we've then created a gap that the air, where's my other bit gone? There it is. That the actual air can get in and the oil can get out. Okay, cool. So this is my little setup. Probably going to have to find a little toolbox to put this onto. Maybe I can do it over my knee. I don't know. Yeah, that's got quite a lot of steam on it. Sometimes they use locking thread nut on there, and it's never helpful. So all I've done is literally take some of the steam off of it so that I can actually remove it when we get to the next bit. And my little hex bolt is in there, which is really great. It's proper annoying. Get out. You see it's jammed in and the little magnet's not strong enough to pull it out. Do you know what? Let's just leave it there for a second. It's fine because I'm going to use it and it's not going anywhere. I can actually separate it easier. Okay, so this comes apart like so. I always put it in order. This is the first bit that comes out. This literally just sits underneath there and keeps this nut from going down. Then we've got a spacer, so that's the middle dampening rod in the middle. I'm just putting these in order, they come off, and now I need two adjustable. Do you have the other one, the smaller one?
Yes, I do.
Please, thank you.
What's
So
the pump? There's a pump here.
I got the pump. Thank you. Cool. All right, so this is just done through the opposite. So it's just two nuts. I don't know if you can see those, but literally all you do is just get a spanner on the top and a spanner on the bottom and just undo them. That's how it's supposed to work without that. I put this underneath just to keep it all nice and neat, so it doesn't drop down too far. Now, I am using adjustable spanners. Ideally, you just want to use normal spanners. However, see the little nuts nice and loose, and this top one just wind. Wow, that was really high up. Okay, well, when we reset it back down, I'm going to put it down a wee quite a way longer, because that was literally holding on just maybe 3 or 4 threads. So whoever worked on this last didn't make sure that this little bad boy was on there good, and that's kind of a safety issue, if you know what I mean. Wow, I'm glad I found that. So this bike has got a bit of a checkered past. I bought it as a non-runner, sitting in someone's backyard, and I have lovingly stripped this thing back down, and I'm just finding out lots of little bits about it. So by the time it's done and I've finished with it, it's going to be a beautiful ride. So I'm just going to lay them all out in order. So a little space up. You're probably wondering, why am I holding on to this bit? If we drop this bit down, it just sinks back down, because it is a dampening rod. We got a washer. And then the most important thing is the spring. It's really, really important. The spring goes, whoa, and that's loads of oil. So I don't know if you can see this spring, but at the top, the coils are quite wide. And then the bottom, the coils are really tightly compact, and they sort of get closer and closer together as you go down towards the bottom. So if you do forget which way up your spring is, then you can kind of use this as a reference and go, oh, it goes up that way. So that is the way it needs to go back in, exactly like that. We'll put that down there. Okay, the next thing is to tip the oil out. I could have done this before, but it's more fun if you've got oil everywhere. And there's clearly not enough oil in this shock absorber, which is no shock, literally no shock. So the next thing I'm going to do now, while it's just sitting that way up, is actually undo my bolt this end, and my little friend should drop out the end. Maybe it's not. I think it's just going to twizzle around, so I've got to kind of do a bit of holding at that end while twizzling this end. Oh, there we go. Got it. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so this is our dampening rod in all its glory, and it goes that way up. Obviously this is upside down, but it goes that way up. Yeah, that's our beautiful dampening rod. So let's set that down. A nice clean bit of wood that I've got set to the side. Just to keep draining this. And then, oh, there we go. And that is our retaining bolt for our dampening rod, which I'm just going to put to the side as well. So just going to let this drain, and then there's a couple of little things that we need to do. One of which is just to clean everything of oil. It's really important that when you put it back in, that this top part here has no oil on it whatsoever. Because when you clamp down on the bolts holding this in position, you don't want any slippage, you don't want any movement, because ultimately it's going to be a bad fight. just going to try and give it a little clean. Oh, look there, it's looking all beautiful now. Oh, yeah. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the protector off. How do we do this? Do we use magical fairy dust? Do we use brute force? No, we kind of use a rag to put on the floor, and then we're just going to very gently, and by the definition of gently, I do mean gently, just going to gently tap it off. And ideally we're going to use something plastic as a midway. What have I got plastic that I can put in the way? Oh, have you got that big screwdriver?
Yes.
Cool. Or we just use a big old screwdriver and we just gently work around the edges. And then I've got a little teeny tiny hammer, because we don't want a big hammer. Actually, just in case. What we don't want to do is damage the plastic itself. So this is actually a nice way of just like squishing it off. Okay. Groovy. Okay, so that's our little guard, our little protector. So it's going in there. And then we've just got to get the outer seal off. So there's two seals. These are the old ones. You've got an outer and an innie. The only way to remove the innie one is the way I'm going to show you now, and then we can do that. So there's a little notch in here. I don't know if you can see that little tiny notch in here, and literally all I'm going to do is just get the screwdriver underneath there and just gently push it. There you go. These are really quite solid things. So when I say you can be forceful with them, you can't be too forceful with them. But equally, they're rubber. You can reshape them. They're actually rubber with a piece of metal in the middle of them. So that's an old one. As you can see, they take the shape of whatever you form them into. Okay, so now we are going to use this little tiny screwdriver here, and we're going to remove a clip. Now this clip, oh, that's better. This little clip is just in the bottom around here. You probably can't see it. So let's have a little look. Oh, there we go. I don't know if you can see that. So all I'm doing is literally just using this to pop it out. You don't need a lot of force at all. Just need a bit of tinkering. Tinker your way to success. That's what I say. Beautiful British day outside. As you can probably hear, there's lots of rain. It's beautiful. Okay, and that is our little ring that holds our seal in place. So we're replacing the two seals. Now comes with the fun part. I'm just going to place the seal somewhere safe in the order that we know it should go in. oily bucket to one side. So this is a scouring pad. What you want to do is, when your missus is not looking, is you want to nick this from them. Just steal it. They won't notice. And then you want to give it a good old scrub like that. And what this does is it takes off the rust. It's brilliant because this thing's already oily, and this one with the white pad doesn't scratch. Now this high performance piece of equipment can be bought from Audi, can be bought from lots of these super expensive stores that we see around. So you might not be able to see this, but it cleans up really fast, really quick. With just a little bit of the elbow grease. Okay, groovy. Now for the fun bit. Okay, so in order to remove the next part, this is where we do our Jedi trick. So we're going to count to see how many times it takes to actually pull this apart. Now, I've never done this in a wanna, but there's a first time for everything. So here goes. Oh, come on. Third time lucky. Yay, okay, third time lucky. So, what I've done now is I've pulled the suspension apart, and for the faint-hearted out there, who are probably crying now, it's okay, I'm going to put it back together. So, here's our bottom section. You can probably see. Oh, actually doesn't look too bad. It's quite clean in there. Okay, so now we have three little parts on here. Now, the thing is probably controversial, but the part that I'm not replacing is these three parts here. Love me or hate me, but I'm not replacing them. The only part I am replacing is this part here, which is the rubber bit. Because these are held in place using friction. So as long as they go back in and they're held in place with friction, then it's all good. So this is the broken part now. The most important thing is to remember which way it goes. So that is the top side. I don't know if you can see in this terribly lit garage, but that is our top side, and the bottom side does look different. You can see it's a lot less gunkier, and it's got a nice clean side to it. So what we need our new part. Other brands are available, but this is all balls. These are the balls. When it comes to like all your little bits and pieces that you need. So this is our new part. So this will be the top, and this will be the bottom. Top, bottom. Okay, so that's the old one, new one. Oh. Something to check to make sure is the condition of your post. You don't want it to have little holes or little pit marks, or it to feel really rough, because this thing will wear out in seconds and you'll only be replacing it again. So that is going back like so. Although, what we're going to do is we're going to store this bad boy up at the top of here. I'm going to clean out the hole that this beautiful thing came out of. I'm just going to find somewhere very clean to put it down. Stay. And then we're just going to use some rags. There's some beautiful rags. And where's my post? So, what I'm doing now off camera is just cleaning it out. So there's no debris, because what you want to do is you want to make sure there's nothing sitting in this hole. So when you sit it back in place, there's nothing stopping it. Look at how beautiful that is. So you don't want to get any sandpaper on there and start sanding it down, because this is aluminium, and aluminium turns to butter. So, that is nice and clean. So there's different tools that you can use for putting these back together. I'm probably going to get some criticizing, but do you know what? If you don't know how to use a simple hammer in the correct way without damaging parts, then really you shouldn't be working on a motorbike. You shouldn't be working on anything. So what we're going to do is drop this back into position like so, and then see this nice solid steel. It's actually stainless steel. It's this nice solid stainless steel little spacer. I'm going to call it a spacer. We're going to use that. We're actually going to hit the top of that. We're not going to hit it with force. By the definition of gently, it is literally that. And we are going to do about 10 little taps working all the way around. And we're just going to keep on going down and down and down and down and down. And we're just going to push this all the way down to the bottom so it seats in nice and snug. Now you will hear a change in sound when it reaches the bottom and it sits in there. And it will make a sort of pinging sound. Again, you're going to be hitting very lightly and gently. So this is my hammer. You might have a different hammer, but this one is like an antique, and I found it's like got the right shape for it. So the head is really small and really light. So this head, I don't know, probably weighs less than 100 grams. This is designed as a rock hammer. So you can use a screwdriver, you know, but if you're hitting plastic with a screwdriver, metal on rubber, the metal's going to win every time. So we're hitting metal on metal. It'd be better if this was made of copper, but again, it depends on how hard you hit it. And we're going to be hitting very lightly, and we're just going to be working it round in a spiral to push that into position. And that is literally, so I'm just doing a slight turn, a few little taps. I've not even got hardly any steam, so I'm holding this right at the top. I'm just literally tapping it in with very little force, very, very little force. So obviously, don't follow me. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not a fully qualified mechanic. I'm just me. However, there's loads of YouTubers out there that's going to sell you the latest gizmo. I mean, I can 3D print something that's going to fit in there, and I can just hit that piece of plastic and then push it in. But the reason I'm doing it this way is to show you guys out there that you can do it with very simple tools. And you don't need to have expensive equipment to do all of this stuff. You know, I think I was watching, I've watched quite a few on YouTube, and They're always trying to sell you stuff. Like, what you need is, you need this other tool. Well, no, you just need a 3D printer, and you can print a 3D plastic bit, and then that can fit in there. You know? So, I'm just putting it on the floor because it makes it faster. And now, as it gets deeper into the hole, so we've got to be thinking. Got to be thinking about using a screwdriver. Now you'll know when it hits the bottom. When I first did this on the other one, it took, I don't know, a good 10